Yeah. So, hello friends, welcome to Cafe Mutual YouTube channel. So today we will talk about the much talked about fund, which is Nippon India ETF, Nifty CPSE Bond Plus SDL 2024. So today we have with us Hemen Bhatia, Deputy Head ETF Business Nippon India Mutual Fund. Welcome Hemen.
Hi.
Yeah. So Hemen, we would first like to understand why it makes sense to invest in debt ETF at this juncture.
Sure. See, at any point of life cycle and under any market condition, every investor should follow an asset allocation based on the investor's return or risk appetite. As part of the asset allocation, investors should invest across asset classes, be it equity, be it fixed income, and commodities, to achieve better risk-adjusted returns. So part of the exposure to fixed income portion of the investor's asset allocation can be achieved by investing in this debt ETF. Yeah,
Okay. So, Hemant, tell us more about Nippon India ETF CPSE Bond Plus SDL 2024.
yeah, sure. See, Nippon India Mutual Fund has one of the largest ETF bouquets spread across asset classes, that is equity, fixed income, and commodities. With the launch of this debt ETF, we are expanding our fixed income ETF product bouquet. And this debt ETF is first of its kind target maturity fund if you consider non-government mandate. It is benchmarked to an index created by NSE. The name of the index is called Nifty CPSE Bond Plus SDL September 2024 50/50 index. The index constitutes most liquid CPSEs and SDLs having maximum outstanding in the 3 to 4 year bucket. While I say 3 to 4 year bucket, we are looking at a bucket from 1st October 2023 to 30th of September 2024. So CPSE as well as SDL as a category will be assigned 50% weightage each at the time of index launch. The index and the ETF both will follow buy and hold strategy, where we'll endeavor to buy and hold underlying CPSEs and SDLs till maturity. The index will have a defined termination date. Given that this is a target maturity fund, there is going to be a well-defined termination date of the index, which in this case is 30th of September 2024. And the maturity date of the product will be aligned to the index termination date. The underlying CPSEs and SDLs will mature in last 12 months because different CPSEs and SDLs will have different maturities, basically based on the selection process. And close to 80% of the underlying securities will mature in last 4 months before termination of the index. On maturity of any CPSE and SDL security, the same amount, the respective amount, will be reinvested in T-bill and TREPS in line with the maturity of the index. And given that this is the NFO opens on 3rd of November, which is coming Tuesday, and the NFO will close on 9th of November. Yeah.
Okay. So, how correlated are SDL and CPSE?
If you see SDL and CPSEs, both are practically considered as quasi-government securities. While we say CPSEs also, the portfolio is going to be constituting only AAA rated CPSEs and not anything below AAA rated. And SDLs are actually nothing but government securities issued by state government. So both are of highest safety in terms of the credit assigned to each of them.
Okay. But in terms of diversification, what investors can expect?
Uh, Again, this in this portfolio, we are not going to take any duration risk, neither we are going to take any credit risk because of the underlying. So as I just discussed, the underlying is AAA rated as CPSEs and SDLs. Okay. So instead of just picking up one particular fixed income category, which is either CPSE or SDL, we have done a mix of both in 50/50 ratio. So from credit perspective, basically we don't see we see this as a portfolio with the highest safety, and that will take care of the diversification in the product. And again, from the product strategy also, this is the product strategy is going to be buy and hold. wherein once we purchase the underlying securities, they will be held till maturity without taking any calls on the underlying securities, which will be part of the portfolio.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Hemant, what would be the indicative return?
The indicative currently the indicative yields are ranging between 5% to 5.2% basically, and I'm putting a disclaimer that these are the rates as of yesterday. Ultimately, the rates are dependent on the underlying securities, the price of the underlying security in the market. So it will keep on changing on daily basis, basically. So this rate, the range which I'm giving is as of roughly as of yesterday.
Okay. So Hemant, what are the risk mitigation strategies that you will deploy?
See, again, as I said to you, lot of non-systemic risk automatically get reduced because of the ETF structure. See, the underlying portfolio consists of papers which will be of higher safety. So your credit risk practically gets eliminated. Another is duration risk, which is a key risk while you invest in fixed income funds. Here, there is no call to be taken on the duration because the objective of the fund is to hold the underlying portfolio till the maturity of the ETF, which is again the strategy being followed by the benchmark index, which it is going to follow. So, lot of non-systemic risk, I will say stock picking or say security selection risk, which may be there, or say fund manager or say portfolio manager selection risk, they get reduced because as an ETF, my objective is to follow the index, and index is built on a very transparent methodology, which will be available to investors from day one. So, because of the ETF structure, a lot of risk mitigation of non-systemic risk may automatically happen.
Okay. But what about liquidity risk? Liquidity
Uh,
risk.
Yeah. So if you see our portfolio has triple A rated CPSEs and SDLs basically. The index methodology while selecting this portfolio takes care of the liquidity criteria. For example, for selecting the triple A rated CPSEs, the index provider is going to calculate a composite liquidity score for each of the CPSE issuers, which will fall into the maturity bucket, which is 3 to 4 years buckets, and whichever is the most liquid issuer will form part of the index. So that will take care the liquidity on the CPSE part. On the SDL portion, again, top 5 states will be selected based on the highest outstanding in the maturity bucket, that is 3 to 4 years bucket. So again, on the SDL part also, based on the outstanding, whichever is the latest issued ISIN representing that state will be selected. So from liquidity perspective, we don't see a challenge, given that both the underlying fixed income categories in which we plan to invest and based on which the index is constructed, they are fairly and relatively liquid category.
Okay. So have you appointed market makers to ensure better liquidity?
Yeah. So, given that this fund is being offered in the ETF format, the fund will be listed on the stock exchange once the allotment will be done. So there will be market makers who will be there from day one to provide quotes on both the sides, buy and sell quotes, and those market makers will ultimately take care of the liquidity portion on the ETF units on the stock exchange. And one more thing I would like to highlight is, see, the liquidity of a ETF is dependent on the liquidity of the underlying. So as long as the underlying with the ETF is holding is liquid, the ETF units can be as much liquid as required, depending on the demand and supply of the debt ETF units on the stock exchange, similar to any other equity ETF.
Okay. So Hemant, in India, we have seen ETF market are yet to take off, right?
Yeah.
So in such a scenario, investors may have to incur some impact cost whenever they exit the fund. So how do
Yeah.
you plan to reduce the impact of such costs?
Yeah. So see, as I said to you, one is the liquidity of a ETF, again, is dependent on the liquidity of the underlying securities in which the ETF invests. So in our case, our CPSE plus SDL ETF, which we plan to launch, We have two of the most underlying fixed income, liquid fixed income categories, that is AAA rated CPSE bonds and SDLs, both of which are considered quasi-government securities. So given that the underlying of our debt ETF has liquid fixed income securities, we do not anticipate higher impact cost. At the same time, even if you see the SEBI regulations on the debt ETFs allow the portfolio manager or say the fund manager of that particular ETF to invest in similar kind of securities which are represented in the index. It may happen that we may not be able to buy exactly the same securities which are part of the index, but based on the SEBI regulations and keeping in mind the construct of the benchmark index, we'll be able to invest in similar kind of securities, which will be a representative of the benchmark index in terms of the maturity profile and the type of securities which we hold. And we do not see liquidity as a challenge in our ETF, or say the resultant impact cost because of the liquidity.
Okay. So, Hemant, which category of investors should invest in debt ETF? I mean, this ETF.
Uh, uh, See, the fund is ideal for all category of investors, I'll say, because of the highest safety and the buy and hold strategy which we are using. But we will recommend this fund especially to the HNIs and corporates. Also, investors looking to invest in FMPs may consider this debt ETF. As I said to you, this ETF is going to follow buy and hold investment strategy, wherein the underlying securities will be held till maturity. Okay, so practically this ETF is going to provide a bond structure like payoff to the investor, that if you enter on day one and hold your securities till underlying units till maturity, basically you will get the returns around the levels while you got in, basically. So it's ideal. This is again an ideal fund for the investors who are investing in FMP if their investment horizon matches with this product. And one important point I would like to highlight is, unlike FMPs, this product is being offered in an open-ended format. So you can once you have bought the securities, in case required, you can sell the securities any time during the life of the product on stock exchange or directly with the fund house also in certain lot sizes. So there will be a larger appeal to, I'll say, HNIs, corporates, and also to investors who are investing in FMP.
Okay. So, Hemant, why do you think that distributors should recommend Nippon India ETF, Nifty CPSE bond plus SDL?
Uh, See, there are many reasons for recommending this fund. I'll just highlight a few key reasons. Uh, See, first is obviously, as I discussed, high safety. The fund has AAA rated CPSE and SGLs as underlying, both of which are considered quasi-government securities. Hence, high safety is one of the key features of this fund, of this ETF, and the index. Another is relatively stable and visible returns. Now, why am I saying relatively stable and visible returns? Is because of the buy and hold nature of the investment strategy with this ETF is going to follow, it is actually going to provide a bond like payoff to the investors. So if any investor comes on day one during the NFO and holds the underlying units till maturity, uh, he will neither face any duration risk because of the buy and hold nature of the underlying fund, and neither we see any credit risk faced by the investor because of high quality, high safety underlying. So from returns visibility perspective also, given that the payoff is going to be like a bond, there will be a reasonable amount of returns visibility while an investor enters the fund and holds it till maturity. So first was high safety, second is relatively stable and visible returns. Third important point is relatively lower taxation. So as we all know, that debt mutual funds offer indexation benefit to all the investors, and given that the taxation of this fund is exactly the same as debt mutual fund, indexation benefit will be offered to all the investors investing in this fund. Hence, relative to other traditional investments, investor will earn a better tax efficient return in this fund. No lock-in, as I discussed, one of the key features, you are getting a FMP like structure, buy and hold structure without a lock-in. FMPs are close-ended, so you have to compulsorily hold them till maturity. At the same time, this fund is going to use buy and hold, but because of the open-ended nature of the fund, there is going to be no lock-in. You can enter anytime and exit anytime during the life of the fund. Transparency is also one of the key features. Given that this is being offered in the ETF format and on a daily basis, the creation unit size, which is nothing but the mirror of the benchmark index, will be disclosed on our website. So investors can at any point of time on daily basis come and see that what does the benchmark index constitute of. Uh, Lower cost, again, why I'm using this as one of the USP is because given that this is being offered in the ETF format, uh, ETFs are generally considered to be low cost vehicles. Hence, as compared to any other similar strategy in the market, this is being offered, this product is being offered at a very competitive cost. So, inclusive of all the taxes, the expense ratio of this fund is going to be 15 basis points, 0.15% on annualized basis. And again, risk reduction, again, which we discussed, a very important point given that this fund is going to follow the benchmark. A lot of non-systemic risk like portfolio manager selection and security selection get eliminated because of the passive nature of the product, and given that it has to follow the benchmark index, basically, which is of highest safety. Yeah. So these are the few key features. I'll say if you consider all these features, one single fund is actually providing you best of all the world.
Okay. Heyman, we have seen that after series of credit events,
Yeah,
many investors have shifted their money to safer avenues like banks,
yeah,
FDs.
yeah,
So, in such a scenario, how can distributors regain trust of investors in debt funds?
yeah. So a very good question. Basically, considering the times we've seen. So I believe that as an investor, you cannot control the returns on your investment because returns are actually market driven. But what an investor can control is the risk, basically, which the investor takes while investing, while doing any investment. So ETF is a very important, a very transparent vehicle, I'll say, because it follows a predefined benchmark index. So there's a transparent index methodology which is well defined and followed by the index. So as discussed earlier, a lot of non-systemic risk, like security selection, portfolio manager selection, they get reduced in an ETF structure because it follows the benchmark index. Additionally, this debt ETF has CPSE and SDL as underlying, both of which are considered quasi-government securities. Hence, there is no credit call taken in this fund. Also, given that this ETF will follow buy and hold investment strategy, there will practically be no duration risk in this fund if the investor holds the investment till maturity of the fund. So we believe that that transparency, along with reduced non-systemic risk, will act as a confidence booster for distributor as well as investor. So this kind of products will go a long way in boosting the investors' confidence.
So, the broader message from distributors to investors would be control the controllables.
Yes, control the controllable. That is a message because returns are not in your end. What you can control is risk. So identify the product basically which offer the lower risk and best possible return.
So, one final question, Heyman. So, when do you plan to launch FOF of this fund for non-demat investors?
Yeah, so see, as of now, as an organization, we do not have any plans to offer a fund of fund on this product.
Okay. With that, we have come to an end of this engaging and interactive session. So, thank you, Heyman, for your valuable
Thank you.
time and input.
Thank you. Pleasure.